Well, I'll tell you what it means, Joe, for businesses, because these are coming out piecemeal. It's like every day, he's pulling out that marker and deciding, where in the world he's going to send a letter off to, as though, we didn't have other forms of communication, as though we didn't have a global strategy. And if you're a business leader, as many on this radio program will be listening as business leaders, look, I'm not just trading with one country or even one region. So the notion that the United States of America doesn't have a trade strategy, that Trump, essentially says, I'm going to put out a letter and that is a trade deal, it's folly, Joe.
Well, I get where you're coming from on this. The market seems to agree to the point that it's not even paying attention now, and the uncertainty is real. We just extended things once again. But what are we buying from Libya and Iraq that we need to put a 30% tariff on?
Yeah, look, Iraq, Libya, both oil-producing countries. I think the key question here, Joe, is whether or not this new deadline, after we were told that July 9th was going to be a, no budging, no fudging, this was the date, Trump, quite frankly, is making it really hard for businesses, American businesses and American workers to figure out how the heck do I make any plans, because he's, for lack of a better way of describing it, so fixated on the reality program that he is programming instead of understanding what does it take to actually run a business. And, bring up the 50% tariffs on copper. Well, we American companies need copper to build buildings in America, to make products in America. So we can't just turn a light switch on and have more capacity to create copper in the U.S.
We're going to talk a little later this hour with Mike McGlone at Bloomberg Intelligence about the copper story. It is pulling back a bit after that huge pop yesterday. Brett, there's uncertainty about trade, and there's also uncertainty about geopolitics. That's nothing new, of course. You and I talk about it every time you're on the air. But in this case, there are big questions about the Middle East following our strikes against Iran in cooperation with Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu decided to extend his stay in Washington this week, a second day of meetings with President Trump at the White House, said to be focused on a ceasefire in Gaza. We heard Steve Witkoff talk about it yesterday, a potential 60-day ceasefire, just like Joe Biden was talking about over a year ago. There's also the matter of Iran. And when you see Benjamin Netanyahu 2 nights in a row showing up at the driveway entrance of the West Wing so photographers can't see him coming and going, meetings behind closed doors, no readout from the administration, what's going on here?
Well, I think it's interesting because Trump is obviously desperately trying to get a deal, any deal, because none of them have worked out so far, including that ceasefire deal that he negotiated along with Biden's team back in January. And look, it is also a really challenging environment for Trump, just broadly in the Middle East. He made, one might say, the reckless decision to strike inside Iran, to strike those nuclear facilities. But we don't have a strategy, Joe. What's the strategy, whether it's with Israel, whether it's with Iran? And I think that's leaving a lot of questions, a lot of open space. Obviously, Netanyahu is sticking around to try to figure out some sort of agreement, some sort of announcement that they can put forward to say, well, on Gaza or on Iran, we're going to at least agree to the following principles. But the substance matters too, Joe. As you mentioned, I'm a recovering diplomat, and I haven't seen a whole lot of substance on the table yet.
Interesting. Do you think that there's another strike against Iran being planned right now?
Trump has said he's going to give diplomacy a chance to do its work. This obviously another example, the first one being when Qasem Soleimani was taken out by Trump in his first term, the Iranians really did pull their punches. I think similarly now we're seeing them pull their punches. This is a window. It's what we would call, in diplomatic terms, an opportunity. So if Trump wants to avail himself of that, he ought to see if he can get something close to the old JCPOA, that Iran nuclear deal, with intrusive inspections, with true ability to ensure that Iran isn't going to be able to reconstitute its nuclear program. Now, obviously, Netanyahu's got a different agenda, and he's going to push Trump for a harder line. Hopefully, the U.S. interests prevail in this.
Let's talk about his agenda for Ukraine, because the president is upset with Vladimir Putin, as he made clear in the cabinet meeting yesterday. He's reversed at least someone's decision, apparently Pete Hegseth's decision on weapons for Ukraine. Listen to Donald Trump yesterday.
That was a war that should have never happened, and a lot of people are dying, and it should end. And I don't know, we get a lot of thrown at us by Putin, for you want to know the truth. He's very nice all the time, but it turns out to be meaningless.
Here we go, having to bleep the president of the United States again, Brett. I don't know if that ever happened when you were working in the White House, but talk to me about this decision, what it means for the Secretary of Defense, who, at least you read the tip sheets around here, is on thin ice after making a decision the president did not sign off on.
Yeah, one thing you learn on the National Security Council staff is you got to know what are your authorities, what do you have to coordinate or at least inform others of. And the fact that Hegseth made this consequential decision, I am cutting off the Ukrainians from these necessary, desperately needed defensive capabilities without even informing the National Security Advisor, who also happens to be the Secretary of State, is just shocking. It's mispractice. And I think Hegseth is going to pay a price for this, because we are now seeing, successive issues when it comes to the safety of, when it comes to the national interest of the United States. You can't continue to make these errors. Obviously, it was embarrassing yesterday in the cabinet room. Trump is essentially dressing him down as he's sitting right next to him. You could see John Ratcliffe, the CIA director, sort of smirking over in behind Hegseth. And at the end of the day, look, Hegseth has made these decisions which are going to embolden Trump, if he rather embolden Putin, if he believes that he, with this summer offensive, can make inroads, that he can push Trump to pull back on some of those defensive capabilities. But let's hope. Trump has, made the call. When I was with him in NATO, he certainly seemed to be supportive of Zelensky and Ukraine's defense.